Welcome to the Egg Racing's eventing podcast and the review show for the Event World Masters. Here, the immediate reaction show. I'm very happy to say I have three people with me. They are all sat, relaxed, having a beer, reflecting on the competition. I'm going to start with Derm because it has been a fairly eventful day.
Yeah, lots of drama at the end, and I guess it's one of the exciting things that I think we take away from this venue is it was quite nice to look at the podium at the very end and see all the new faces. I mean, obviously Gemma's not a new face there, she's been on plenty of them and a previous series winner, but I thought it was great. Obviously we'll come on to Gireg in a moment, but between Gireg and Felix Vogt being on that podium, it certainly shook up some of the predictions anyway.
Well, let's just say, so Derm does a little bit of a wager. He's determined to get betting into eventing, and he gives the Event Rider Masters team the option to put up three horses in the top five. If they're in the top five, it's normally like €10, then they obviously double their money. Now, he has cashed in this weekend, so we just made him go to the bar and buy all the drinks. Very happy that with us, Mark Ruddock, who was a hit the last time he was on the eventing podcast. Mark, best behaviour though.
I know, but I've not had a drink. Well, I'm drinking now, but I can be naughty. If you want me to, I'll be naughty.
No, it's fine.
Right, Blythe, I'll be appropriate with you. Go on.
Well, double world champion, Olympic champion, eventing legend. Dr. Robert Blythe Tate the Third.
MBE.
Hello. What an exciting competition. I was a big fan of the winner. Lovely horse and beautiful young rider, so great future for them.
Can we talk for a second about our winners? Because Gireg le Coz, we obviously picked them up in our Veal as ones to watch. They finished 6th place there, but they came and they absolutely outperformed themselves. The horse has only previously done, I think, one 4-star class before, and that was Blenheim 9-year-olds last year before our Veal. So came to our Veal, obviously went very well and finished in 6th. Absolutely nailed all three phases here. We're 11th after dressage, but they started out in the 20s. They finished on their dressage score, and I think this is a horse, Mark, that particularly in the dressage was just so eye-catching and just so genuine and honest in all three phases.
And it has we got clear round show jumping nights going on, and it was such a well-trained, produced horse, so supple, so lovely, and actually so much more to come. Another year, and everything. I think watch his space in Olympics.
Oh, French Olympic call already. Well, what I'm sure the French selectors this weekend were probably thinking, my God, we need to keep hold of this one. In the jumping, Blythe, because he actually goes in a bitless bridle for the show jumping. And then cross country, he made the time. Only a couple did it, but he really did just make it look easy.
He did. I mean, it's the first time I've seen that kind of a bridle in the show jumping, but it was very effective. I did say at the beginning of the competition that it wasn't necessarily going to be a dressage competition.
Not like Derm.
And he was the only horse to finish on his dressage score, but a really solid 3-phase performance and a deserving winner.
Well, really deserving winner. And in terms of the series, Derm, Gireg has actually just thrown himself in contention for the series. He's in about 4th.
Yeah, that kind of came from nowhere, didn't it? I mean, I probably had overlooked the fact that what you get, 30 points for a win.
He had 21 from our Veal.
Yeah, very impressive. So our Veal he finished 6th. Just looking back on the record, Nicole, he had actually been to Samur as well in the long format 4-star in 2019 and finished 6th there as well. So,
I missed that one.
Yeah, so 3 now.
Yeah. Samur long format 4-star this spring.
Oh, that's a 3-star.
That's a 3-star. There we go.
Yeah, long format 3-star.
Not a 4-star. I was just going to say, if he's qualified at 4-star, then he'll go to the Europeans, I'm sure. Or they'll be up there, but he won't be qualified. So that's the next on their agenda, I imagine. Probably picking up a few ERM legs along the way towards the end of the year. Now, drama was pretty hot on the agenda at the end of the round. Thibaut Villette, who had led after the first 2 phases, had a fairly slow round cross-country, didn't really chase the clock. And time-wise, he was just a little bit off the pace. So he ended up finishing in 10th, but Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look. Now, they were second after the first 2 phases, and they absolutely flew around the cross country. Gemma really did go as quickly as she possibly could. We'll talk about my fit of giggles in a second. But the flag drama. because there was a big discussion. The ground jury had a replay of her, one of the final combinations, the second to last combination. They had it from different angles, went on for sort of 5-10 minutes as to whether she was going to be awarded these 15 penalties, but they weren't, and she ended up on the podium. But it was tense.
Well, it was a very tight call. It's great. I mean, it's again going back to what you want from the sport. That was a 10 grand call that you were having to make there. It is great, obviously, to have the technology and different camera angles to be able to make it. But that's what you get in every sport, and that's what you want to make sure that we're really capturing at the heart of the sport. There was a really, really tight call, and I've seen those given. I'm pretty sure that that was right on the edge of whether you would say, like, if basically, I don't know about you, but if they said it was 15. I wouldn't have been surprised, and if they said it wasn't 15, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I thought it was very tight. You're looking at me, Mark.
Yeah.
What did you think, Mark?
On the first camera angle, I thought it was definite 15, but on the second camera angle, I thought it absolutely nailed. It wasn't.
Blythe?
Yeah, I would have ruled in favour of Gemma as well. I mean, the horse made every effort to jump the fence, got right up high with its back end, and yes, she was very, very close, but I think probably benefit of the doubt.
Well, Gemma's flying change in the dressage that she didn't quite pull off, or one of those seconds on the cross country, actually cost her the top spot on the podium. But in third, Felix Vogt-Calero, who we did actually talk about on the preview pod. They were 6th in Kentucky this spring. They'd been top 10 in Carolina, and Felix really delivered it. That's going to fill him full of confidence, Dan, because the Swiss team's still looking for qualification for the Olympic Games next year.
Yeah, that's a big moment. I know, and look, we'll definitely come back to the dressage competition piece. I mean, the key there is that that big influence of the first phase, because you did, like, let's be honest, we had a really, like, it was 30, I think it was 39 or 37% who jumped clear in the show jumping, and if you just go for jumping as opposed to without any time penalties, it was 67 odd percent. Bring that then into the cross country phase, and it was again like well up over 70%. I think it was 74% who jumped clear. So all of the influence, absolutely. Whatever these two here say beside me, I'm sticking with it. That the first phase was the influential phase, and Calero was one of the horses that really stood out in that first phase. 25.8 and started. He was 5th after dressage, and then obviously he did just pick up a small bit of time. But like Gireg, I would say 3 phases there where he's had to put everything together, but it started with a very strong dressage.
He pulled it all together. Just a word on Alcatraz, Alex Bragg, because he finished in 4th, Mark. Now, this horse only recently stepped up to the level, but he performed in all 3 phases. He was the first to achieve the optimum time on the cross country. Alex was so close to a podium finish on a horse that actually really stepped up here this weekend.
Yeah, and I think the way Alex has produced that horse, I think there's so much more to come, and I'm sure it's going to be Alex's next top horse on the flat. There's still a lot more to come, but the training's there, and I think watching it jump this morning was stunning, show jumping.
It is a very good jumper. It does a lot of the indoor derbies over the winter, and Alex is such a showman. I mean, he came through the finish, and he absolutely loves playing up to the French crowd. They love him here as well. Who else have we got? Janelle Price, Gravine de Rev. She is the new series leader, Blythe. Now, that's a horse that obviously we've spoken a lot about how it's a new ride for her this year, but everything seems to be coming together.
Yeah, I mean, Janelle rides in a very different way to Dan, who had the horse before, but I do think they look like they are becoming a partnership, and I do think they are going to suit each other, and if they do, well, look out everyone else.
Watch out. A few other horses to mention this weekend. Firstly, I would say that Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory, finished just outside the top 10, and actually they were really classy in all 3 phases. The mare back after a virus after badminton, and also DSP Quintana P, who I put up as my dark horses. They were 29th after dressage, ended up finishing with one of the quicker rounds cross country in 15th, so good job for them. But disappointment. Let's talk about the disappointment, because there were a few big ones this weekend. Sarah Cohen and Treason. Mark, our hearts broke for her. We didn't even consider the fact that she could have a cross-country jumping penalty.
No, and Derm will tell you 2011, Derm, was it, or something? 9.
Yeah,
Sorry.
2009. Now, there is a couple of retirements on the record, and I can't be sure, because of some of the ways that we displayed it, I can't be sure if there was a 20 penalties before the retirement. So you often just see on the page of results, when you're looking back that far, you'll just see RET. So I'm not positive if there was something before those, but if you just count around where I'm actually able to see it, it actually, as you say, Mark, it goes all the way back. I'm just trying to find it here again. It goes all the way back to I think a 1-star in 2009. I think it was at a time where I think Jeanette Breakwell rode Treason for one round. And then, and I think in Sarah's first round back, I think they had 40 jumping penalties, and that is it's 10 years. It's 10 years of treason competing internationally since we saw something like that. Of course, it can happen. It doesn't make it unlucky. It just means it's a more unlikely outcome. It's somewhere on that chance scale. But I had treason at almost like plus 90% reliability. That's a rare one.
And if he'd have actually done his usual fast clear in the cross country, he would have topped the podium. The other one who really impressed in all three phases, and I was absolutely gutted for him at the end of his round because I didn't really feel that he deserved the 20 penalties, was Tim Price and Falco Blythe. Because Tim had given the horse a super ride, inexperienced at the level. This was a big step up for the horse, but it wasn't quite to be on this occasion.
No, a big step up for the horse, but I mean, how impressive was he? He's a horse that I have fallen in love with, and you know, we talk about the margins, and if Tim hadn't have had that little blip at the second to last combination, he also would have been the winner. He was going out on a 27 and he was well up on the clock, so you know, that would have been enough to have won. So you know, it is about being able to jump these difficult fences at speed, and with the young horses, you know, there is a risk involved, but give that horse a few more runs, a bit more of Tim's training, and I'm sure it's going to be a horse for the future.
Excuse me, just coughing into
That was charming.
Sorry, yeah, there's no need to just take the mic and cough into it. Question on course design, because I think today we saw something special. And Sam's dad, John, was texting me during the competition, but one of the points he made was that we're so lucky in the sport to have such different and brilliant design, because what we saw today, particularly as we got to the end, we had an interview with Pierre Michelet very early, which is, you know, one of those cool event rider master innovations where he talked through a couple of fences, but we also got to hear his view on the track before it happened, and exactly as he expected it to play out. He said once the speed comes in a little bit, there are some tricky strides in there. He has to work with, I suppose we call him Michelet the Menace, but he has to work with some different types of questions because he doesn't necessarily have terrain here in Jardy to be able to play with. From you, Blythe, and from another designer, it was pretty special what Michelet achieved today.
Yeah, I think he got it exactly right, and he did say that he wanted to try and make it sophisticated because he didn't have the undulations to use, and he did that well. And you know, I don't want to play too much about Sarah's mistake, but she was sort of tempted into that mistake by coming off a line that wasn't ideal for the forward three strides, but she gave it a go and it just didn't come off. So, you know, clever course designing. She came to no harm, and as he said, once the speed comes in, that's when he thought that the mistakes would come in, and he was exactly right.
That combination at the end, I thought, was really interesting, the one that caught Tim, because it was one of those, you mentioned it on commentary, that Falco had almost jumped into it too well, but it was a combination which I think probably caught maybe up to 3 or 4 but as we got towards the end of the competition. Mark, you mentioned that was one of the standout fences.
Yeah, what I think was amazing about the course was, like, walking up to each fence, nothing was big, nothing was massive, was it, Blythe? And it was just like you thought, but it's where, and that fourth brush, you came through the gate, and it was just really tricky. And I think the horses go through the gate and think they're going to over a field. Yeah, a really clever course designing.
Even that early mound where you had to decide on the line, I thought was an interesting one for me. You saw people like Gemma and Laura both approached it, and I think Tim as well. They both kind of went around and then were able to take on that question not straight on. Some people cut in. It wasn't necessarily like everyone wrote it differently, but it was just a clever piece. I thought that it caught plenty.
Yeah, you're talking about the corner off the mound. Yeah, I mean, again, it was very clever designing because he gave you options. You could do both, and we saw both. As it transpired, I think the inside line rode better, to be honest. But going back to the second to last combination, I think it was very important that the horses jumped in over the first table really well, because if they were off the second or the first of the skinnies and the riders had to be pushing for that, well, then it made turning to the third one really difficult. But in having said that, I think that last combination rode better than I expected it would. There were more horses that really understood the question and seemed to jump it almost like they'd practiced it. So good piece of course designing.
I think for me, the thing that stands out from this weekend is it hasn't been a dressage competition, but each phase has played its part very much. And I'm not saying that to prove you wrong, Derm, I'm not. But actually, each phase did play its part. There were plenty of problems, but there was nothing nasty, nothing too dramatic, in so much as they were the silly glance-offs kind of thing. There was the odd pole down. There were time penalties. Bill Levitt, heartbreak for him, just wasn't meant to be. He had a top 10 finish. He's second in the series race, but it just didn't quite come off. And I think it was just one of those weekends of brilliant sport.
When you say brilliant sport, what I love about this conversation, I think it's a fun one around the influence of dressage in the first phase. What I love about it is all four of us are sitting here after coming off the back of watching or being part of that entire commentary over 2 days and 3 phases, and we're all saying, wasn't that brilliant? Wasn't that exciting? That was a brilliant weekend.
So much fun.
Yeah, wasn't that a brilliant weekend of sport? Now, go back to just looking at it on straight numbers, and you're saying, well, a huge amount of people show jump clear, and a huge amount of people jumped clear across country. So to be able to make it fun like that, you've really only got time penalties. And to get time penalties in both phases and still enough excitement that you saw someone like Tim Price, someone like Sarah Cohn, someone like Izzy Taylor, all managed to come unstuck. I think, that's again, going back to Michelet, that's the real skill, that we saw really high clear rates, and yet we're all sitting here saying, wasn't that brilliant? Yeah.
I think for me as well, time penalties, the amount of people that were just part of a second, it was 0.4 in the show jumping and just a couple of seconds over in the cross country, and because the leaderboard was so tight, it had such a massive effect. It was 2, 3, 4, 5 places, and that was from 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Yes, we only had a couple make the time, but actually those that didn't were still competitive rounds. They weren't picking up 10, 15 time penalties. They were just really, really close, and it was just brilliant sport. And if you haven't watched it, go back eventridermasters.tv and have a look, because it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure.
There was 3 or 4 show jumping rounds in a row where I think they just kept going 1 second, and you were saying it is unforgivable. It's an interesting one for me. Show jumping time penalties, Blythe, your opinion. I know a lot of riders, it's the one part that they really despise, because it's something that I guess you're trying to balance risk, and you're trying to balance I suppose, what would I say, you're trying to balance risk and speed, and you've got to make some decisions around corners and lines, but it is an area of the sport that riders talk about. When you see time penalties on a show jumping record, it's one of the ones that you say, well, that's the first marginal gain I should be making.
Yeah, it is so annoying. I'm not one to talk because I've had my fair share, but to me the show jumping course today was quite intense right from the word go. It was a difficult first, second, third and fourth fence, but I do still think that the place to make up time was between 1 and 2, and I think if you did that, then it just let you ride a normal round, whereas we saw people start a bit steadily and try to gain time at the end, and then the fences came down. So although there were a lot of good jumping clear rounds, there were an awful lot of time faults today.
Can I ask, because I think we should wrap up this podcast, we're going to have to miss our flight in a minute because we're going to have to get on the airport, Bastille Day in France, and it could be crazy traffic. Can I ask, Janelle Price now leads the series. Blythe, I'm going to start with you. Is she going to be the 2019 Event Rider Masters Series champion?
I think so, yes, because she has the mares at home who are really competitive, and she now has this horse here that can also post a really good score. So, yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Okay, Mark, who are you going to put up as the 2019 Series champion?
Janelle, and then Tim will sneak in second.
Done?
You lot are
I know what you're going to say, and I'm going to say the same.
These lads would they would flip, wouldn't they? I mean, he literally goes away for 5 minutes and they've forgotten about him. Chris Burton will win the Event Rider Masters 2019. He's going to Aachen next week on Serious Talent. I think he's going to put in a big showing against the 2 German ladies there, Julia and Ingrid, and maybe even, I think Chipmunk is going there. Fisher Chipmunk is going there with Michael. Now, we did see Fisher Chipmunk knock a few poles today.
A few? 4?
All right, yeah, 16. All right, give over.
I thought that was his dressage score.
I agreed. Well, it wasn't far off his dressage score, but what I would say is I think Chris Burton will take. I think he'll take them on.
Yeah, for me, Chris Burton, he's got Graf, Liberty, Cooley Lands, both have Olympic qualification at Badminton, both are coming back from their breaks. He's got Polystar, who won some year, who also has Olympic qualification, so he doesn't need to chase a long format in the autumn with them if he doesn't want to. He's got Quality Purdy, and he's got Lawtown Chloe, who again was second in Wiesbaden. For me, he just has so much horsepower. He is the one to beat, and I think it'll just make him a little bit cross that he wasn't here this weekend. But don't forget, if you missed any of the action, you can go and watch online, eventridermasters.tv. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've loved our commentary team this weekend. And we're going to get you on for another Alphabetti Spaghetti soon, Mark, but you just have to promise no gay club stories.
Yeah, we got. I mean,
Which one's got the letter is?
that's mainly people want him on so we can do that.
The letter's H now, so it's
That's
fine.
why they want me.
Yeah, people want. There's hotties and everything else in there. No, so we're not going to. No. Well, anyway, look, Alphabetti Spaghetti to come. Nicole, if we do not get on the road, we are literally stuck in France for a long time. Let's get out of here.
We'll be walking home. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support on the Flick group as well. It's been an absolute pleasure this weekend, and we'll be back with the Aachen preview a little bit later on because it is big week with Aachen coming up next week and the SAP Team Cup as well. So we'll see you then.